hot damn, have we got an episode for you? I can officially do that because he literally does it 3 times in the movie. I think this is the origin story of the hot moment. There we go. Welcome everybody to us talking Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, episode 32 of the Popcast Movie Club. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Ashley. I think mostest. Isn't that Mike Modest? No, not bad. Joining me as ever is Owen.
Hey everyone.
And our selection. I'm making words up. The person that chose the shit we watched. It's not shit. Damn it. Is AJ.
Yes.
It's unbearably hot over here. You know, it's like temperatures that Owen is used to, but like over here, it's like when it happens, it's like.
Yeah, real feeling it's about 98, 99 degrees right now.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimate temperature is 93, but the real feel like adds almost like 10 degrees more, it seems like.
Yeah, for us, it's probably high 70s, low 80s ish, maybe. But it's, you know, it's. If you live in sort of places where you don't get good air conditioning, which is a lot of the UK, we're buggered. But yes, I'm trying to think. I think I first saw a trailer for this on one of those DVDs that you got from, I guess it was UGC cinemas at the time in the UK. They like did some partnership thing with HMV, and they had like it shows you how well it did that they were just giving away the discs free at the cinemas. Just like, oh, I picked that up. I think that's at the same time where I saw. I don't know if it's the same DVD that also had the first trailer for Kill Bill Volume 1, which was that late 02 or was that 03?
Well, it's funny you say that because my DVD of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind has the trailer for Kill Bill 1 on it.
Right.
So that sounds accurate.
Yeah. In terms of DVD releases at the same time, it probably would be around right. So yeah, and what also surprised me is this, I guess, was possibly submitted for Oscar interest, because it did get released right at the very end of 2002. Although it did get the Silver Bear for Best Actor for Sam Rockwell at the Berlin Festival like 2 months after, but like I find it interesting that obviously they were trying to get this pursuing award stuff, and nobody never really bit, even though there's some pretty good performances and some pretty good work from Clooney behind the camera in. I'm pretty sure this is at least his directorial debut on film. I don't know if he did any TV before this.
I like to think that a lot of the, I mean, obviously Good Night and Good Luck is great.
Yes.
But I like to think that a lot of Good Night and Good Luck's Oscar goodwill came from, oh shit, we should have done this a few years ago for him, probably.
Completely agreed.
Because I would say Clooney's direction is just as much the star of this as Rockwell is. It's pretty, and some of the shots here and like the way he decided to compose these scenes is really, even now, and it's interesting to me also that Charlie Kaufman kind of he says he has no ill will or anything, but Charlie Kaufman kind of disowned the movie a little bit, which is really funny because a lot of the shots that Clooney chooses feel right out of a Charlie Kaufman movie. Yeah. But apparently there were scenes in the script that were like unfilmable, and I guess like taking stuff Clooney took a lot of stuff out of it to where Charlie Kaufman felt like it wasn't really his. But I feel like you can still see a lot of Kaufman in it, and I feel like that's probably what Clooney had in mind when he chose a lot of the way some of these scenes look
Yeah,
and how they bleed together.
I do feel like some of Keeler's actions throughout like the 4 or 5 minutes that Rutger gets sort of in the film seem very sort of Kaufman script-esque. The zany quirkiness.
And it's even not just him getting the picture of him strangling the guy in the backseat, but also just the idea of ordering like salad greens with no dressing by themselves. It's just like, oh, this guy actually is a psychopath.
And then, of course, like the added impetus of, did it actually happen? Was it true that while he was doing, the dating game and the newlyweds game and whatever, he was just doing hits in European countries and whatever? And
I'm gonna
go ahead.
I'm gonna assume the consensus is that he's, well, I get it. You kind of want to watch how you say it, I guess, because it's like, is he full of shit or just extremely unwell?
Yeah.
I remember Ebert's review where Ebert was talking about it, and the first thing he addressed was, is it real or is it bullshit? And he said, well, speaking as somebody that's worked in TV for as long as I have, when you work in TV, you do not have time to kill people for the government. There's just no time.
And just because this was, thinking on like the performances as well, this was, I mean, it wasn't Rockwell's debut. That was probably most people the first Charlie's Angels, I think.
He'd been working for a good decade before Charlie's Angels, but Charlie's Angels was the first place I saw him besides the first Turtles movie.
Oh, I completely forgot he was in that.
I want to say stuff like Lawn Dogs was in the 90s also, where he was like really in independent stuff. Yeah, I think he had indie stuff throughout the 90s, but I feel like Charlie's Angels was his break into like the mainstream, and then this was his first, like, he had led a lot of those indie movies, but this was like his first lead in like a big movie. I struggle to call this a mainstream movie since the wide theatrical run was so small and quick, as Owen knows.
Yeah, of course. I mean, anything that had any sort. See, that's the thing. At the old theater that I used to work at, and AJ frequents, or did at one point, basically, I would say that a lot of movies that would have had any sort of critical acclaim, for the most part, had a very short shelf life at my theater. I think the best example would be the fact that I believe we never got an actual theatrical run of Chicago. We had it a couple of weekends, and that was it.
Yeah, those sneak previews, as they called them.
Sneak preview weekends, yeah. And usually we would go to a theater that was like 45 minutes away and watch something like this. But somehow, some way, it came to our theater, and we were shocked. We didn't have to watch it on my computer on a tiny screen. No, we actually got a theatrical viewing of the movie, and that just kind of blew my mind.
It's also funny you use that as an example, since this in Chicago, that would have been like the same season.
Yeah.
Yeah, just looking at the box office mojo, it started off in the 40s because I guess it was limited release.
Mm-hmm.
It only went wide the weekend of the 24 through 26, 2003, where it was just behind a third week of Just Married, and Catch Me If You Can, which, again, that sort of feels sort of similar sort of topic area of like, this is too good to be true sort of stuff.
That would have been it honestly would have been quite a good versus battle if we would have thought of it a long time ago.
Yeah, if the stuff that recently came out about Frank Abagnale, which shouldn't be surprising.
Sure.
If that had come out sooner, I probably wouldn't have done the verses with Catch Me If You Can and The Sting, and this would have been perfect with that, because it's like, because both of them would have felt obviously fabricated.
Sure.
While we're talking about its box office and the fact that like it was out for so little and nobody saw it, I mean, I know Drew Barrymore and Clooney are obviously big names and everything, but I'm curious on the decision of keeping. I mean, I love a good. Oh, I had no idea this person was in this movie. That's a great surprise. And when they even turn out to be a major character, what is up with Julia Roberts not being on any promotional material? Because it's not a cameo, it's a role. It's a major role.
An extremely important role, especially in the movie.
And she's in the cast list here on the DVD, but that's it. Otherwise, there's no mention of her whatsoever. She's literally in the fine print.
They use her in the trailers, don't they? I think.
I didn't go back and watch it, but I don't remember her being in the trailer.
That's why I was trying to dig out the DVD from like 20 years ago, because I swear like the trailer that got broadcast, that was released over here, has like a different music palette and everything to the one that's just everywhere on the internet, which is the US trailer.
So I'm reading a little wiki news here. Obviously, Nicole Kidman was the one originally slated to play Patricia, which I would have enjoyed that more, because I like Nicole Kidman more than Julia Roberts. But I do like the rapport that Roberts and Clooney have, and I think they work really well playing off each other.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear, because with Clooney directing, you'd kind of automatically assume Roberts would have been the first choice. So that's interesting.
Kidman dropped out because. Go ahead.
I'm assuming they hit it off on The Peacemaker, and that's his connection to Kidman. I would say he feels much more connected to Roberts, unless that's more of a retrospect thing.
Well, yeah, and the reason why Roberts was even in question at all was due to Ocean's 11, and the only reason Kidman had to drop out was because of the hours.
And then, yeah, I'm looking at your notes. I'm looking at the same note you are, Owen, and it mentions as well that Miramax didn't greenlight it until they got Julia in the thing.
Yep.
Because they were that unconfident in Rockwell.
I do absolutely love the fact that George Clooney did his cameo in Spy Kids Game Over, so Rockwell would be able to be cast in the movie. That makes me so happy.
That's so hilarious in retrospect, to think that somebody didn't have faith in Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Well, what also makes the Roberts thing interesting, that she wasn't the first choice, is the Soderbergh connection.
Right.
Because this was also 2 years off of Aaron Brockovich. Because Soderbergh is what, a producer or executive producer? Executive producer.
Yeah, I think he's, from what I remember, he's exec.
I'm keeping up a couple of the wonderful sites we all go to try to find out information, and yeah. All cast and crew.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think he was exec producer because
I didn't realize we were still on. I didn't realize we were still on this. I read that directly off the DVD case. It's executive producer.
Yeah, because of Section 8 obviously being the production company that him and Clooney did. And you see other big things with Clooney like Syriana and Michael Clayton, alongside the least well known Soderbergh produced films like Insomnia and Far From Heaven and Scanner Darkly and everything.
Right.
But yeah, and there's obviously you've got the Rockwell Barrymore, Charlie's Angels connection. You've got Clooney and Roberts for the Ocean sort of stuff.
It feels like a very close knit group when you look at them.
I mean, the thing that I thought would have been uncredited, but no, Brad Pitt and Matt Damon are credited as Bachelor Matt and Bachelor Brad. I thought that would have been just like a sort of a cameo thing that would be uncredited, but no, they actually left it in.
Yeah, we'll get there in time. Let me know when you want me to jump into the chat here, because we do have quite a bit.
Yeah. If you want to go through some of them now, yeah.
Yeah. So, new rules. We're Dua Lipa style. New rules for tomorrow night. Due to scheduling conflicts and the brilliance of Wes Anderson, AJ is not going to be able to be here for 6 o'clock. So we're going to be starting at 7 on tomorrow night's QA show.
That isn't that's the temporary rule. The permanent rule is coming next.
Yep. So, moving forward, when Ashley puts up the link, leave your comments, leave your questions, and we will make a note of all of them. And when we go live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll go with what we've got.
The aim will be to basically make the video appear on your timelines as a searchable thing 2 hours before we start.
Correct.
So if it like next week, or sorry, tomorrow, it's a 7 start. The video will be live for you to access, even though it won't go live itself at 5. And then I'm guessing in a couple of weeks' time, when it's 6, it'll be going live at 4.
Yep.
And that's your window to put your questions in.
Now, we understand that sometimes there may be like circumstances involving your shoot job or not being able to make it, or in that case, then just leave it in a comment. Send it to me. Like, you can hit me up on Twitter if you want. If you have any questions that way.
Use the Discord.
Use the damn Discord server that I keep promoting every single podcast, every single video that we've done. And for those of you that are on the Discord server, thank you. Eventually, we'll put more things on it. But there are a few things that pop up here and there. Ashley's done some Twitch streams that you would not know about if you didn't know that. Brian's done some videos. Josie's done some videos. So it's like, it's a way to promote yourself and to promote the channel itself. So take advantage.
Keep that in mind.
Spencer Reed, welcome back. It's been a minute. Confessions of a Dangerous Popcast, that makes sense. Confessions of a Dangerous Emily Blunt also makes sense. Confessions of a Dangerous Mallrat, that makes sense. I'm in here twice, I guess. Confessions of a Dangerous Brit.
When you see the film in 2 weeks, you'll know why.
So, AJ, this is to you. Spencer says, I'm going to be honest. This was the first time where I didn't like the movie AJ recommended. But it's like the line that Balaban says in The Late Shift. First we slap him and then we suck up to him. You're still the man who gave me Pacific Heights and The Arrival, so you're a winner in my book.
Arrival, that's random.
Josie says, before I watch this movie, I won't watch the episode of Rugrats where Dee Dee went on a game show hoping to have her place in the sun. The sun referring to the lights on set. Yeah. Julia Roberts. And Drew Barrymore, I'm going to list a couple. Josie brings the factoids as well, as always. Julia Roberts and Drew Barrymore worked for a scale salary of $250,000 as a favor to George Clooney. And of course, the cameos of Pitt and Damon were free.
Yeah, because I believe like the budget had to be under a certain amount.
I think it was like 30 grand, not 30 grand, 30 million for the
Yeah.
budget. And that's where the George Clooney, like being in Spy Kids 3D game over comes through. I just love that fact, honestly. Charlie Kaufman felt dissatisfied with the way Clooney treated the script. As we mentioned previously, I spent a lot of time working on the script. Clooney wasn't interested in the things I was. I moved on, but no animosity towards him. It's a film I don't really relate to. Clooney says he did make some changes himself, but there were some funky scenes never gotten greenlit, which of course we talked about a little bit ago. Most of the scenes done in one take. The lobby scene and the dating game montage were done completely in one take. Actors and actresses ran around to get into position.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive when you look at like some of the spaces that they had to run around in to get into the next bit of the shot.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to talk about that stuff specifically.
I have a couple comments on that, actually, if you want to elaborate once we get there, because we're there right now, actually. Apparently, Nick Clooney was director of TV game shows back in the day. He derived experience from watching them backstage to make this movie. Clooney and a couple stagehands cut the padlock off a storage facility at the Florida studio they were filming because they forgot to hire a camera crane for a scene. Apparently, they borrowed one for the night that was being used by another unnamed production. When the director of the other production found out, he was mad, threatened to call the police, have Clooney arrested. Clooney sends him a check for 20 grand with a barbed note saying this should cover both the rental of the crane and go some way in offsetting the box office losses the director's previous film had made.
Okay, so now I'm trying to work out which director would have had losses at the box office for his last film before that one.
It's 2002, 2003. I think it's honestly in the range of that could have been about anybody back then. AJ, if you have any ideas.
The first. No.
Okay. Almost done. The movie was spoofed in an article in The Onion entitled Movie Marketed as 6 Different Genres.
What, the 6 different genres?
A romantic comedy, a spy thriller, a Hollywood satire, a straightforward biopic, a strange being John Malkovich-esque mindbender, and a chick flick.
Yeah, I don't see the problem with a movie having that many genres. We just talked about this. The Crying Game has like 5 different genres,
Right.
and it just makes it better.
Pitt and Damon were Bachelor Matt and Bachelor Brad. Gwyneth Paltrow and Renee Zellweger were also considered for Penny.
Makes sense.
While filming the dating game, the producer are being surprised that the unattractive Bachelor number 3 keeps getting attention. Because, of course, the Bachelor is being Pitt and Damon.
Yeah.
Hi, Brian.
That's enough of a sort of fascinating story. I might want to hang on. I'm trying to work out whether we're over halfway in the comments, so we'll leave it to we'll get to Brian's comments. Oh no, yeah. Mention Brian's first 2. Well, 1 and a bit because I guess there was a word character limit.
Yeah, that's a shoot. Brian says, "Okay, I don't know what it is, but after Anomalisa, being John Malkovich, and now this film, without having yet seen Adaptation or Eternal Sunshine, this makes me feel like I'm not a fan of Charlie Kaufman as a screenwriter." Eek.
If that's how you feel, you're gonna fucking hate Eternal Sunshine if you get to it. And that's not even to go into. I'm thinking of ending things will be the end of the world to you if you don't like Charlie Kaufman. Oh man.
But yeah, going back to what you wanted to bring up, AJ, and that sort of the early sort of shot with the one take of the getting the foot in the door of ABC.
Yeah, because what is it? He starts off, he's at the back of the tour, and then he leaves the tour to get an application. He walks out of the frame. We see another tour come through. Then he comes through with his tour. Then we push in past that counter, and then he's sitting at the counter,
Yep.
all in one shot.
But no, also
So,
the woman that was leading the first tour has somehow got in said room to be chatting
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And I love that there was no, to my understanding, there was no cheating, right? It's just literally them running as fast as they can, like it's fucking Saturday Night Live.
Pretty
that's
much.
it. Of course,
You know, because another shot that I love, it's not as elaborate as far as the actors having to move, but it's when he gets the call from Larry Goldberg.
Mhm.
And to my understand, if I remember correct, I listened to the commentary like 20 years ago, but if I remember correctly from that, he talks about how there was basically the wall there was basically false and could be pushed.
Sure.
But when he's talking on the phone, and then he walks from suddenly Larry Goldberg's office is in the living room, and he walks through. And I love how for a while it's like a split screen. You're like, oh, it feels like a split screen effect, and then Penny dances through the whole shot, and then back again, and then when he comes back, the wall's there again. To my understanding, that's one shot that has no trick editing in it, which is amazing. and and even also talking about actors moving fast, even things that aren't as elaborate, like when he's walking past the dating game set and he's like kind of pacing. So he walks by the three chairs and they're empty. And then in like a second, he turns around and walks back that direction, and Clooney's suddenly in one of the chairs. And it's like, I that what we were talking about with Charlie Kaufman, how it's like how things sort of bleed into the other and make them start to feel more cerebral, but usually that's done with like cheat edits and stuff like that. But for him to do everything basically right there in the moment with the camera getting everything is something that I feel like is goes really underappreciated. Especially now because people really rely on not doing the real tricks anymore. Like every single long take you see now in a movie probably has like either CGI or some cheat edit in it. And it's like I watch this and I just bask in it. It's like, why isn't everybody doing this when it's clear that you can't? And this was his first fucking movie. He has not been able to top himself. It's so weird to me that every movie Clooney has directed after this, besides maybe Good Night and Good Luck, looks pretty bland. And it's weird that he did all this stuff. It's like I mean, I'm not saying Clooney's a bad director. I'm just saying compared to this, the rest of his stuff looks bland. It's weird that he went so all in on this, and I'm wondering how much of that is going back to what I was saying about how it's weird that Charlie Kaufman feels like it's not his movie anymore. Because it feels like there's so much Kaufman influence on how Clooney put this together, and it really put a spark in his mind to do this creative shit. Because it still feels it feels right out of Kaufman movies. and it's interesting to define a Kaufman movie too, because you have like this, but then you also have Spike Jonze having done Being John Malkovich, an adaptation. You had Gondry do Eternal Sunshine, and then he did his own with Synecdoche, New York, and I'm thinking of Ending Things, but every Charlie Kaufman scripted movie feels like a Charlie Kaufman movie, despite all the different directors. It's really interesting.
I'm intrigued what happens
how much he authors his movies, literally and in the finished product.
I'm intrigued what's going to happen with his next one, the Boys in the Boat, I think it is, the MGM thing, because the cinematographer, okay, it was the same cinematographer as the Tender Bar, but you know, he did Control and Harry Brown and The American that have very really nice, you know, styles to them. And I guess it's sort of, I don't know if it's the equivalent of like the American Chariots of Fire, because it's all about, you know, Olympic Games, admittedly more about the Berlin Olympics and boats and whatever, but hopefully sort of, because Tender Bar had a decent color palette, but like a lot of the other things like Suburbicon and Monuments Men have just sort of been very.
What was the Midnight Sky? Was that the space movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to think. I don't think Clooney's in Boys in the Boat. I think he's just directing. Yeah, there's no like cameo or whatever.
Oh man, we've been having this whole conversation. I literally just remembered that Clooney directed the Tenderball. So is the only thing we didn't mention Leatherheads? Is that his whole
Yeah, Ides of
directing
March as
filmography?
well.
And like I said, I will stand by Suburbicon. I'm like the only person that will defend Suburbicon.
I like the script. I don't know whether some of the sort of framing and whatever is some of the stuff he does in it feels a little Wes Anderson-y, or trying to replicate that style. Probably because of the 1950s sort of thing, which is weird because with like this, given that it's obviously starts in the 50s, it doesn't feel like he's warranting, or he doesn't have that sort of view in his mind for at least this. I guess because obviously a lot of it you sort of hamstrung to sort of television sets and whatever for the dating game and the newlywed game and the Gong Show and all that. So you can only do so much sort of like grand scale. You can't make Gene the Dancing Machine look extra epic.
I wonder if another reason you get Wes Anderson vibes might be the pacing of like the first 20 minutes or so.
Certainly some of the camera movements as well, where it does feel like, like you said, the bit where Clooney appears on the dating game set, where it just goes left and then immediately right. That feels very much sort of like a Wes Anderson style camera direction.
And the fact of when I say the pacing, it's like the first 20 minutes is basically a really long montage. It feels like,
To some
but
extent.
not in a bad way. That can be a bad thing, but I like how it's like it knows it has a story. The story it has to tell is the CIA stuff and how that mixed in with the game show stuff. So us getting the rest of his life that happened before that is basically a 20-minute montage to kind of get to the point. But it still tells his story. I mean,
I like the fact that the dating game was ditched for Hootenanny, which made me have to look up what the hell was Hootenanny, and it's like, oh wait, it only went for like maybe a year, and it like took them that long to realize, oh, maybe the dating game thing was good, except they keep saying bloody sexual innuendos, which is weird because then when the Newlywed Game came, that pretty much was the entirety of the show. Especially when it appeared on all those game show blooper sort of reels on YouTube and on television at the time, because there was no such thing as YouTube.
Remember, I have memories of watching this movie with different family members. And I remember when I was watching this with my dad, he like knew a lot of the shows, so he could see where like the turning points were coming. Like I one thing I vividly remember is watching my dad get excited during the audition scene when he imagined killing her because he knew it meant the Gong Show was coming.
Yep.
And there was the moment where the girl says "in the ass," and my dad said it before it happened, and I was like, "How did you know that?" And it was like, "That's a real clip."
Yeah.
That is 100% real clip, and it's something that's been played throughout history. Now, granted, they've changed the wording throughout the time, but the actual line is "in the ass." But Jeff Foxworthy took his own spin on it and told the story a long time ago on one of his bits that's actually, there's a record of it. Like, I literally have it. It's like Redneck Comedy or something like that, I think is what the CD was called. And it was like, Bob, I like to say in the butt. In the butt for a washer and dryer is Jeff Foxworthy's line. That's not the line, but that's what the line they went with.
It's I mean, as long as I've known you, it's still weird to me, knowing your tastes, that you, of all people, know Jeff Foxworthy bits.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You are totally not wrong. I mean, the original like hook for me for this movie was the game show stuff, obviously, because that's what I knew Chuck Barris for. And I was not the biggest mark for the Gong Show. It's probably the one of the three that I probably would go back to. But it's one of the things I remember growing up with was my grandmother would have had a neighbor, and her name was Jean. So we called her Jean the Dancing Machine. So that's something that's followed me for my whole life and everything. Like it was all about Jean the Dancing Machine and the Unknown Comic, and they're both in the movie, and that was freaking awesome. And being how big of a laugh-in mark I am, it's really nice to see like some of these like people that were big in Hollywood at the time that were on all the game shows as a part of actual movie.
Including the almighty Dick.
Oh, of course. Can't forget him.
I despite all of the inappropriate things in this movie, I also have a memory with my late grandmother regarding this movie. And I don't know, I'm assuming you noticed this also, Owen, but when I watched this with her, she was pointing out the accuracies.
Yep.
And when we get that first Gong Show scene, I still remember my grandma saying, "Yep, that's him. He was always clapping his damn hand." It's like that was like the most accurate thing about his performance was the constant clapping during the Gong Show.
Loved it.
The thing that I'm hoping that is true is, as long as the sort of majorative the subtext is true, the fact that like he got stuck in sort of East Berlin or whatever and got traded over for the contestants on one of his shows.
Yeah, that's what's funny is that's the thing that probably that's probably the most far-fetched thing in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's the thing I want most to be true.
Yeah. The fact as well that like, you know, the woman that was so interested in him, you know, on the show and then wasn't interested when they were in Helsinki, all of a sudden is massively interested in him because, you know, agent and their handler and whatever, as soon as they cross the border on the prisoner exchange. And the great thing is that certain elements, when I saw that for the first time, I'm trying to think, probably been like 05 or 06 when I got the DVD. Cheap. I sort of got flashbacks to it when I watched Bridge of Spies, when they do the exchange like right at the end of that. Oh yeah, because it was this. Was it a bridge in Confessions? I don't think it was.
Yeah, it genuinely looks like the same location.
Yeah.
I mean, well, AJ, you talk about like you know about my past with game shows, and I think most people that have been watching this channel for the decade we've been doing this shindig, I would say they would know my past with game shows. But one of the weird things I have to say is my past with game shows is a little bit deeper than some of you know of. AJ knows what story I'm about to tell. So when I was a kid, like tiny little human, you remember your first words. I don't think I've told this story on here before, actually. Because AJ knows where this is headed.
Yeah.
So there were three things. Mama, because forevermore I'll be a mama's boy, damn proud of it. She's the reason that I exist in every way possible. She's who got me to Florida, everything. I owe my mom everything. AJ knows that. Light, because for some random ass reason I became very enamored by the GE lighting book that I got when I was a kid. I don't know, it was my second word. And my third word, granted, I know it's not a word, it's two words, but yeah, it was Mama, it was Light, and yes, it was Bob Barker. And that's 100% story.
I thought it was going to be Come On Down, but I was close.
You're very close. So forever and a day, it's always been my dream to be on a game show. I remember wanting to be a game show host when I was a kid. I remember hosting game shows for the neighborhood children in my grandma's backyard and front yard back in the day. I remember doing various like rip-offs of like we did the Double Dare obstacle course. We did Where in the World is Carmen San Diego. We did Nick Arcade. I mean, we did game shows. And one of my biggest ones was Jeopardy. Jeopardy was something I've always wanted to do. I mean, I've auditioned for Jeopardy a bunch of times, never actually made it past the where you do the test, but I mean, I've tried. And with Drew Carey being the host now, it doesn't really make sense for me to be on The Price is Right anymore, even because Bob Barker's not a part of it. So it doesn't feel right. But I've always been enamored with game shows. Game Show Network, AJ knows this, was like the greatest thing in the world. Nickelodeon Games and Sports was like the greatest thing in the world back when those existed. I would just literally veg out, and in Owen terms, that means lay on the couch and just watch game shows constantly. I remember when we got their Game Show Network in my area at the beginning, and they had a bunch of those interactive games that you could sign up and like play in real time. That was my jam. I love doing that. That was fun. That was the closest I was going to get to being on an actual game show itself. And there was a time that MTV had this really awesome game show about who could be the biggest mark, basically called Idiot Savants. And I remember really wanted to be a part of the show. Like, it was really cool because it was like, oh yeah, you get to choose your like specialty category, and then you get to face the nerd of that specialty category, the savant of TV, of movies, of music, things like that. And if you beat them, you win things. That was fun, and that's something that excited me. And remembering back almost 10 years prior of a wonderful movie that a lot of people skipped out on, sadly, called Quiz Show. I was really
I'm assuming you mean general audience.
I'm talking about the general public. I'm not talking about obviously people that matter.
Got a Best Picture nomination.
So. Very much. Yeah, but most people don't remember that movie, unless you're in like awards connoisseurs like we are. But I mean, yeah, Quiz Show was something that was skipped out by a lot of the GDP. And I remember really digging that movie just because it was a game show movie, and I loved the concept. And when I heard about Confessions of a Dangerous Mind and they were going to go into Chuck Barris, I was like, ooh, this is going to be real fun. And I didn't realize about what the meat and potatoes of this was basically an espionage thriller.
Yeah.
And I dug that greatly.
We'll have to do Quiz Show on here sometime because I rewatched it a couple years ago and it's so good.
Yeah, it is. 100% it is. I love that movie. And that's another true story too.
I just realized in my notebook here, bringing it back to the espionage thing. Another thing I forgot, a moment I forgot about that feels so incredibly Charlie Kaufman is the scene when he comes out of the tunnel. He's tunneling, and then he comes out through a hole in like a seedy bathroom, and the guy that's there shaving is there to give him his clothes and his gun, and then he just leaves, and that guy keeps shaving. There's such a surreal quality to stuff like that feels very much like that was definitely Kaufman.
The two bits of like the surreal imagery that I think cinematography really highlights. The first is Jim's death scene at Chuck's pool, where you sort of just get the blood just gradually appearing from the diving board. I'm trying to work out what happened to him. Whether he was shot or somehow sort of got sliced.
He shot it, clearly.
Yeah, because I believe Patricia says at the end, she confirms at the end that she killed him. But I've always found it interesting how that scene plays out, where they don't really make note of what they don't even make note of what he was bleeding from.
Yeah.
But there's something. But I always found that interesting too, because this is I had to watch the movie a lot before I noticed this. I feel like it's intentionally playing into the ambiguity of whether Chuck is crazy or this is real, or he's just a bullshit artist, one of the three. If I remember correctly, and when I rewatched it, I was kind of watching closely for this. Patricia mentions him by name like twice. Apart from Patricia mentioning him by name, Bird never interacts with anybody but Chuck, does he?
No.
It's like a Bruce Wilson The Sixth Sense kind of thing, where you look back and he only talks to Chuck. And the thing that struck me also was the only other time Patricia mentions him is when she talks about having killed him and Rutger Hauer. But I think even by then she's using pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
But the one time she says Bird's name, he says some piece of information, and she says, "How do you know that? Did Bird tell you?" Sounds a lot like, "Did a bird tell you?" Like the little birdie told me phrase.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're intentionally playing up that Bird could be imaginary, but it explicitly never goes into it. And that's always kind of been my explanation to myself of why his death scene is so odd.
Interesting.
So almost like Chuck is, because we don't see a wound, we only see the blood, right? We don't even know where the blood's coming from on him.
That's what got me, because when he was just sat there, it's not like there's any obvious bleeding from his shirt or anything, or from his jacket. Because at first you think he's just sat there, contemplating what's going on, and it's only like towards the end of the scene when you sort of see it's not blue underneath him.
So is that scene him writing Jim out of his mind?
That's possible. I mean,
it reminds me of the end of Fight Club, when he, in quotes, kills Tyler Durden.
Right.
And Tyler Durden has that head wound, even though he doesn't exist, and then he disappears. It feels like that. And Brad Pitt's in this fucking movie, so I'm gonna run with that.
There you go. That makes sense. Well, Ashley's gone. Let's finish chat, or best I can here. Josie mentioned, obviously, 2 actors and actresses from Batman movies in this. Of course, George Clooney and Drew Barrymore. And Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, respectively.
Rutger Hauer's in Begins.
Right, yeah, that's right. And because according to this, NM000442 would probably be what Rutger Hauer would be. Apparently. That's just what it says. Maggie Gyllenhaal was in The Dark Knight. Barrymore and Gyllenhaal's characters were both enamored by Two-Face.
I did not think about that. That's interesting.
I like that, Josie. Good job. Rockwell has amazing energy here. Yeah, it's funny because if you look at the archive footage of Chuck Barris, I mean, Rockwell to a T, 100%. Like in another year, this would have been a knockout of the park, 100% for an Oscar nomination. It should have been. We'll get to that in a minute. Brian asked, how many projects have Clooney and Roberts worked together in? The answer is 5. Actually, I looked into it.
This one.
Yep.
She was only in 2 Ocean movies, right?
Also correct.
Ticket to Paradise.
Nope.
And it's gonna be an obvious one.
It's a newer one, so I don't know if it's necessarily obvious.
Newer one, because Clooney hasn't been working that much on camera lately.
It was Money Monster.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
I can see how you would forget that, or how you would forget that.
When I
Um,
was rewatching this, Money Monster popped in my head,
nice.
so it was there.
Josie also asks a question: what actor, as a joke, of course, would you like to see on the dating game?
Well, I mean, if we're talking as a joke, I want to say somebody. I was gonna immediately say somebody problematic. Somebody that's been canceled, but
I have an
I
answer to that actually. If you want to go that route, because the first person that popped in my mind was Woody Allen.
because like the first thing I was gonna say was I mean, obviously we can't say it now, but the very first thing that popped in my head was Robert Blake.
Oh dear God! As far as this version of the
No,
dating,
wait, wasn't there a thing though where like a serial killer actually went on the dating game? Wasn't that a thing?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Close enough. As far as this version, Josie said would like to see Owen Wilson.
I feel like he'd be very uncomfortable.
I feel if this movie would have been made a little bit different time frame, it would have been Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson as the bachelors in the special scene.
Weirdly, I would say George himself,
That'd be interesting.
or even like Ben Affleck, because like the
Affleck would be great.
relationships that sort of he's been through and whatever have been sort of crazy, and would be interesting to sort of get to know how it works and whatever.
I want O'Holler and Leanne London from the dating game ripoff in Mallrats.
I mean, this would have been said about in that era.
Yeah.
I'd throw Warren Beatty into the mix. That'd be fun.
Rockwell's awesome in Galaxy Quest. Yes, yes, he
Yeah.
is. Um, he's Rockwell's like I'd say there's actors that are hit or miss,
Oh.
and honestly, I don't really think of many roles I don't like Sam Rockwell in.
Yeah, we were talking about Charlie's Angels being his mainstream breakout. Was Galaxy Quest the year before this or the same year? Is Galaxy Quest 99? Or the
That's
same year as Charlie's Angels, I mean. Charlie's
it
Angels
would
is
It was
2000.
before this.
it was 2000.
Okay, so they're both 2000. Okay.
Well, like I
Yeah,
found it interesting that Confessions of a Dangerous Mind was the same year and within a few months of Welcome to Collingwood.
yep. Yeah, I can't really think of a Rockwell performance where he does, no matter what he's doing, no matter what the movie is, that he doesn't just excel.
Yeah, because it was really weird because I was bashing his nomination for Vice,
Yes, you were.
but the thing is I love him in Vice.
Yep.
The problem was that he was taking up space because it wasn't like an Oscar worthy kind of thing. It was just I just love him in it.
Yeah, Lawn Dogs, The Green Mile, Galaxy Quest, and then A Midsummer Night's Dream were the same year. Charlie's Angels was the year after, and then Confessions of a Dangerous Mind 2 years later.
Yeah, Jerry. Oh God, yeah, we didn't even mention the Green Mile. Shit.
Hitchhiker's Guide, great
And,
film. Well,
yeah, and Jerry and Tom with Joe Mantegna is a Mammoth movie that's amazing. Yeah, Box of Moonlight, the one with Totoro was the one I was trying to think of that earlier and I couldn't remember the title.
yeah, I'm looking at his filmography, reminding myself of some of the other fantastic movies he's done. I like Choke. I liked Moon.
Moon.
Moon's so good.
Something I didn't realize until looking. Uh, Sam Bell, his character in Moon, actually does appear as a sort of uncredited cameo in Mute, the sort of pseudo sequel
Yep.
from a few years
Yeah.
back.
I got everything.
It's a shame a lot of his stuff most recently has been voice work, like Trolls and One and Only Ivan.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember him in them. I remember him in Bad Guys. Probably
Oh,
because
that
he's...
was great.
Trolls, he was like that cowboy troll or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's what I don't remember.
I didn't see the new World Tour movie.
Well, don't worry, you're not going to see Trolls 3 in a couple of months.
You're not wrong. Although apparently I have to watch Ruby Gillman because that trailer has done enough to make me want to see it. So yeah, so many great things he's done. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Bad Guys, you need to.
And see how they run. I think that is better than a lot of people made it out that it was.
Mm-hmm. Josie says he's been with Leslie Bibb since 2007. Brian says, after finding out it was Drew Barrymore, am I the only one who thought first glance Penny was Kirsten Dunst? No,
What?
Penny's Kate Hudson. Dunst.
I can understand what he means by that. The first shot where she's just kind of in silhouette when she's at the door. I can see she's got kind of like the Mary Jane hair going.
Yeah, I agree with that. Young Chuck Barris was Michael Cera. Yeah, that was cool. Nice seeing him. So Brian says, is it just me, or is it uncomfortable nowadays seeing the Miramax logo because of him?
It's something that's always in the back of my mind, but I can push it out because I actually just rewatched Music of the Heart this week too.
Okay.
Like I just keep forgetting how many things came from Miramax.
There's a lot of my favorite movies there from Miramax. I mean, I can't really say anything.
Even if you go as far back as technically, although it was Dimensions Films, Hellraiser was Miramax, sort of.
So was Scream, and that's the reason I want to kick him in the nuts. Miramax and him were focusing more on Chicago gangs and Frida for the awards, not this film. Yeah, that's true. Josie's going to be watching Asteroid City tomorrow too, AJ.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. We're going to have a nice Wes Anderson conversation soon. She says I'll be sending in my messages. Apparently they brought up Rosemary Clooney's name in that episode of Rugrats. Yeah, they did, actually, now I think about it.
I do like how she's name dropped at the beginning, and then we finish on her song.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about Rugrats, one of the things I enjoyed was they were talking about Satchmo, because I thought Sasquatch was, and then Grandpa's like, you mean the trumpet player? No, Sasquatch! The Satchmo! Yes. Okay. So we're going to eliminate a couple things here, potentially. Which of the following Best Actor nominations of 2002 and 2003 would you kick out for Sam Rockwell?
I remember what they are.
Go ahead.
And it's really hard because this is an all-time fucking lineup. That's how I remember it.
There's only one of these movies I haven't seen, and by proxy that I'd have to eliminate him. But the issue is, I've heard the performance is great. So
yeah, because it's Brody in The Pianist.
Yes.
Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York.
Yep.
Nicholson in About Schmidt. Cage in Adaptation, and Michael Caine in The Quiet American.
That's right. So obviously,
what fucking sucks is Rockwell is going in.
Yes.
You can't get around that. This is what I say again. Whenever this comes up, this is why I hate it when people hate on the Oscars because certain things don't get nominated. Sometimes the years just fucking look like this.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes it happens because it's bullshit. Sometimes it happens because this is the competition. I'd almost say, how much can we cheat on this? There's no stakes to this game, right?
Right.
I would take out Day-Lewis and put him in supporting.
That's
Then there'd be a
fair.
stake.
I like that. Because the only option I have is Michael Caine. But I don't want to do that.
Yeah, Kane's fucking awesome in the Quiet. I mean, Kane's probably like 5th to me, but he's fucking awesome in the Quiet American, so I can't take him out.
Yeah, I like your revert your category switch. That works.
Yeah, because I would say my question would not only be, am I putting Rockwell in? My question would be, would I make him win?
Yeah.
For me personally, it'd be down to him, Nicholson.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But Cage and Kane are incredible, and obviously Day-Lewis. Like I said, I put Day that, and that's not just like an I want to make room for Rockwell thing. If I was doing 2002, I would put Day-Lewis in supporting.
Right. Okay. I'm good with that. Adapted screenplay.
These I don't have off the top of my head.
We have The Pianist, Adaptation, The Hours, About a Boy in Chicago.
I'd probably take Chicago. I'm not a. I know I'm probably simplifying this too much, but I just don't focus on screenplay when it comes to musicals.
That's fair.
And those others are like the others are too good to take out. So I'd probably just take out Chicago.
Ashley, what's your answer? Oh no. Sound, shirt. Speak.
I find that weird because it worked perfectly for an hour.
Yeah, so did Pluto. We saw how well that worked. Continue.
I'm tempted to say The Hours.
Yeah. I think I'm just buttered.
There's too much
about
of a
Monster.
charm about a boy for it to like not make it in.
I love About a Boy's nomination. That's amazing.
I remember about it is that god awful annoying theme song of the music of the movie.
I'm kind of looking into it and working out why the hell Confessions didn't make it into the Globes.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking like best musical or comedy. We got Chicago stays, About a Boy stays, Adaptation stays, My Big Fat Greek Wedding stays, and Nicholas Nickleby.
Yep, that's an easy one. Bye, Nicholas.
But then on the actor front, you've got Gear for Chicago along with Cage for Adaptation, Kieran Culkin for Igby Goes Down,
Nice.
Hugh Grant for About a Boy, and Adam Sandler for Punch Drunk Love.
Hell yeah.
How the hell did that not make it? Nicholas
that's
Nickleby ahead of Punch Drunk Love? Shit the fuck.
Yeah, that's another one where this year is hard for actor because that lineup of 5 they already have is amazing. Plus we have Rockwell, plus we have Sandler, and who the fuck was I just thinking of? We just said it. Gear.
Yeah,
Gear in Chicago got robbed. And I believe Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo was this year too.
Yes, that movie's fantastic.
And on the drama front, DiCaprio was in there for Catch Me If You Can as well.
Yep.
The lead actors in 2002 that was insane. That must have been an insane race to watch.
Ooh.
And then it culminated in one of the craziest endings to a race ever.
Best editing.
Ooh.
Chicago, The Hours, The Pianist, Gangs of New York, and Two Towers. For me, obviously I'd bump out Rings because I don't care for its nomination in anything because I'm not a mark for it. But I mean, I see the reason why it's there.
Two Towers is more warranted to be in editing than Return of the King was.
I don't think either of them should have been, but that's me.
Well, it was okay. So it was Chicago, Gangs of New York, The Hours,
The Pianist.
Pianist and Two Towers.
I'd maybe take The Pianist out of editing. Because the Hours is doing all the time jumping really well. So
Right.
I wouldn't take it out. So yeah. Because I feel like I know the Pianist isn't something that should feel fast paced or anything, but it's the Pianist feels really, really, really long. Really, really, really long. I was gonna say Gangs of New York actually doesn't have the best pacing, especially for a Scorsese movie, but it's almost sacrilege to take Scorsese and editing out of the equation.
Sure. All right. I think we're at the end of that. Josie said, "I love everything Charlie Kaufman has written. He wrote a good book a few years ago called Antkind." And Josie makes a statement, "Film Twitter needs to realize editing is not just a bunch of cuts. It's also knowing when not to cut."
The internet also has a really bad habit of assuming long movies are not edited.
Right.
And that's just so fucking... There was especially... I hear it a lot with fucking Titanic, and I hear it a lot with The Irishman. And it's like, you have no idea what editing is.
It's like me and mixing and editing when it comes to the sounds. George Clooney trivia. Realize he quit the WGA in 2008? He felt like he was let down by the union because they turned his wish down to be credited as a co-writer for Leatherheads.
There's a bittersweet irony to that, right?
Huh?
There feels a bittersweet irony to that. Oh, sorry, AJ.
I was just gonna say, if I was gonna do some big dramatic releasing myself from the guild, it would not have been over Leatherheads.
Clooney was the best man at Richard Kind's wedding.
Who cameos in this?
That's right.
The audition thing.
Yes, as of now, Clooney directed only one Oscar-nominated performance. The aforementioned David Strathairn in Good Night and Good Luck.
By the way, speaking of that, if you haven't yet, people need to look up on YouTube George Clooney's interview with Howard Stern, where he talks about Richard Kind's litter box for his cat, and there's a story with that.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
Good God. George Clooney was one time actually due to make Wild Wild West.
As in direct it, or be Kenneth
That's
Branagh? Or be Kevin Kline?
That's the only way I can imagine Clooney's involvement in Wild Wild West is if he was Loveless.
He probably would have been Loveless. That would have made sense. The editor, Stephen Marion, edited Babel, Birdman, The Revenant, 21 Grams, Traffic, Ides of March, Good Night and Good Luck, Go from 1996, Clock Watchers, and Swingers.
We forgot to mention the Ides of March talking about Clooney movies too.
Yeah. The production designer Jim Bissell also did The Rocketeer, Arachnophobia, Twins, Spielberg's Always, E.T., Harry and the Hendersons, The Boy That Could Fly, Dennis the Menace, Jumanji, 10 Cup 300, and Rogue Nation. Interesting.
All over the
So your
place.
costume. Yes.
No, sort of all over the place, like not really stereotyping himself.
That's true. Costume designer did the costuming for Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Sicario, Enemy Prisoners, Murder Mystery, Night at the Museum, The Fountain, and Shattered Glass. And apparently, Charlie Kaufman, fun fact, wrote an unproduced draft of A Scanner Darkly and an uncredited rewrite of Kung Fu Panda 2.
I want to see both of those.
3 of the 5 Kaufman screenplays based around real people in fictitious situations. Susan Orlean, John LaRoche, and himself in adaptation. Chuck Barris, John Malkovich, and she says, Leonardo DiCaprio in The Dating Game? Yes.
For once, you're not dating an 18-year-old.
LOL, I'll pretend you said 18. Anyway.
Make him.
Oh, it says Weinstein, not Feinstein. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Comedy for 2 is still comedy. I popped Ashley like crazy on that one.
If you put DiCaprio on The Dating Game, you need to switch it to where he's the one asking questions and it's 3 women, and make all 3 women over 25.
Exactly.
Just
That's
to see
what I meant.
Weinstein was not a creative behind these films. He was a distributor and campaigner, and even Guillermo del Toro and James Gray did not like working with him.
Yeah, it sounds like, if anything, he was detrimental to their making, because he kept wanting to shift shit around.
And Brian mentioned, speaking of Oscars real quick, because it's not like we're not doing that in 2 months anyway. Get ready, everyone. We're about to get bogged down again in a couple months. The Academy announced this year's honorary winners. Film editor Carol Littleton, Mel Brooks, in all caps with an exclamation point. Yes, like it should be. And the actress who was upset this past ceremony of her loss, Angela Bassett. Think we are done, except for that one thing. Nope.
A couple of hours.
Parsniburger, welcome back. Says, I never saw Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. I recently finally watched Close, and it was amazing, which it won Best Foreign Language Film last year. I cried all the way through. Huh. Interesting. Brian says, same. Josie says, my brother actually saw Richard Kind in the audience when he saw Behanding in Spokane on Broadway, written by Mark McDonough.
Nice.
And also starred Sam Rockwell.
Yes, correct.
7 Psychopaths.
Hell of a movie. Brian, speaking of that independent theater that we talk about on the channel all the time, 7 Psychopaths. Anyway, Brian gets the last word unless things go more. The end of the podcast, Brian says, buy one, rent one, lose one. So we still gimmicks here on the network. First half of the year of Popcast Movie Club 2023. Scott Pilgrim, Duck-You-Sucker, Friday Night Lights, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Great White Hype, Crying Game, Mighty Wind, Collateral, Angus, Mystery Man, Long Good Friday, Pacific Heights, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Brian says, buy Collateral, rent Mighty Wind, and lose Duck-You-Sucker. Ashley's like, yeah.
I'm not surprised Brian, was not a fan of it, so.
No.
I mean, I guess. Oh, were you gonna say something?
I was going to say I was probably going to buy Collateral. Rent Scott Pilgrim. And ditch the only one that I wasn't really a fan of dramatically, and that was Pacific Heights.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Well, I don't really want to go on I don't want to like say, oh, look at mine, it's the best. So I'm trying to go through like the other ones. I was tempted to say Die Hard, but because it's practically on every week on television, it's not hard to not avoid on the buy rent.
The problem is the answers I would get. The only ones I could really like take away are the movie clubs I weren't in attendance for. I guess I would have to pick Duck You Sucker based on principle alone. And without saying something that I said. So I'd have to go with something that I would have picked. So yeah, we'd buy Collateral and we'd rent. Yeah, I'm okay with that. We'd rent The Crying Game. AJ, without picking any of yours, what would you select?
Well, I think The Long Good Friday would be at the top. And then I can't really discard any of them. The only way I discard them is by process of elimination.
I had to do it that way, and it was all the ones that I attended. I can't discard any of them.
Yeah, because I'd probably also say discard Ducky Sucker, but that says nothing of the quality of the movie.
Right.
I mean, I almost wanted to put The Great White Hype last, but sometimes you need a movie like that.
I can't select it because it's my pick.
Oh wait, no, I'll discard Scott Pilgrim.
That's fair.
And what are the ones that weren't mine?
Ducky Sucker, Friday Night Lights, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Great White Hype, Mighty Wind, Angus, Mystery Men, Long Good Friday, Confessions of a Dangerous... and Pacific Heights, sorry.
Actually, how about I rent The Long Good Friday and I'll put Angus at the top. And then discard Scott Pilgrim. That's hard. I hate that question. Fuck you, Brian.
I think that might be the show. Oh, hold on.
I've just got like a few more notes here I didn't say yet. Actually, it's like 2.
Hold on, real quick. I'll finish Parson Burglary. Is Pacific Heights a thriller where a couple of our landlords has some stalker after them? I'm sorry, that film is nothing more than Lifetime with a higher cast, and haven't seen Melanie Griffith in a movie for years.
Well, you and Spencer are not going to get up.
Nope. Yeah, Parson Burger says Angus was Josie's pick, not AJ, no. I think. Don't remember.
The public's pick.
Yeah.
It was our pick of the public's submission.
The anniversary. So yeah, I'd probably go with Angus too instead of The Crying Game now I think about it, because yeah, that's the thing. Or Mystery Men.
I mean, I like that we took out of the equation, we couldn't pick our own, because that would have made it significantly harder.
Oh yeah. AJ, you have some last minute words about them.
I don't know how useful these are because I'm sure everybody turns these videos off by now. But
probably.
When I was talking about the intro and how it feels like a 20-minute montage, I love how we basically get the fact that he writes the song, and then there's a whole arc to the kissing in the theater thing.
Yep.
Where he's surrounded by people that are making out and he's not, and then it comes full circle to him being the only one making out and everybody else isn't. It's like there's a whole arc in that one moment, and like this opening intro, and then him creating the dating game, and it's like the way we kind of fast forward. It's like we're fast forwarding through that, but it doesn't feel like we're doing it just to hit the beats. It feels like we're getting his story told in an interesting way, but also in a fast way, like I said, so we could get to what the whole point of the movie is,
The
which
bit,
is
the
the
bit, the
double
bit I
life.
like about that as well is it starts with everybody kissing and him and Tuval are not, and then it's him with some other girl, and she storms out and whatever. And everyone else is watching the film, apart from the old pair in the front row who are snogging like holy shit, their life is about to end.
And the other thing about them sort of showing us the rest of his life that wasn't this stuff, I like how, because I would have said the childhood flashbacks weren't necessary, but I like that they're super brief, but also the way they tie in, where it's when they show the really disinterested mom saying to the disinterested dad, we need a new ice box, and the way that transitions into the ice box being the prize
Mm.
is really good. And I love the really eerie stuff towards the end when he's starting to really have a breakdown, and we see all the locations where he killed people as like sets that are being like moved. There's just, I mean, not only is it visually creative, but there's something that's always been so eerie about it to me, to where it's like you can really visually see his mind collapsing in this way that I feel like, I mean, I guess some people could say it's a little too literal and on the nose, but I don't know, just something about it, it creeps me out in a way that I really like.
Oh, I see
Those,
that.
yeah. Um, and I love the way they utilized real footage with the, where it's like it's not like a new technique or anything, but how we're seeing real footage on the monitors while the show is happening, but in the background it's like the stand-ins moving around, and the way it syncs up to make it look like we're watching the actual footage as it's happening is really nicely done. That would be utilized in stuff like Bobby, Emilio Estevez's movie, which is really underrated. I love the way they, whenever you like can combine new footage with old footage and make it look like it's actually happening in real time, and that
Sure.
was really utilized well here. And the way they sort of without draw, because I think this would have been like not long before the movie came out, the way they highlight the ironic tragedy that Jinjing the Dancing Machine lost his legs to diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even draw attention to it. They just show him, and you're just like, oh, the tragic irony of that. The use of the interviews also I felt like was really effective also, and how it set us in this real world. It kind of felt like Being the Ricardos was trying to do that and failed, because Being the Ricardos basically failed as a whole. But but yeah, and like I said, that stuff also where I can feel like maybe some people would think it's unnecessary, but I love the inclusion of all of that. There's nothing in this movie I dislike or I would change, honestly.
Right.
I feel like it's nearly perfect. So
All right. Let's see. Ashley, do you have Lifetime over there? Owen and AJ, do you agree it's Lifetime-esque? No, I feel like it was a nice little homage to 90s thrillers. Very suspenseful, very enjoyable.
it wasn't an homage to '90s thriller. It's a 1990 thriller.
It was it
It
looked
was
what it was supposed to look like. That was a horror.
Movies that do homages to '90s thrillers are probably looking at movies like Pacific Heights specifically.
I could see that.
And
Is that I think that's the thing too, is maybe it has a Lifetime feel only in retrospect, because now we see the '90s trashy thriller as like I said, that's just a thing where that sound, a '90s trashy thriller has a negative sound to it, but that's the kind of shit that I love. So
Mhm.
if anything, you're just complimenting it more by to me by saying that.
and in terms of, there might be Lifetime on one of like the Sky or the Virgin, satellite box sort of channels. But I agree,
That
it is Lifetime-esque in my opinion.
the thing that separates it from Lifetime to me is the performances.
Yeah.
Because when I think of Lifetime, I also think shitty acting, which I would not say Pacific Heights is. I feel like that's what separates it the most. But plot wise, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We have any last words before we go any further? Every Lifetime movie has a woman or a man or a couple being stalked by some psycho tormenting them.
I will tell you, there is one made-for-TV stalking movie I can think of that is absolutely fantastic, which is it had two titles. The title I know it by is Stalking Laura, where Richard Thomas played Richard Farley, is a fantastic movie, and I can't remember if it was actually Lifetime, but it basically is a Lifetime movie. But it's fantastic. But apart from that, yeah, I get the negative connotation.
Pacific Heights at sometimes was giving me vibes of that bloody Dennis Quaid face in whatever was it, The Resident or something like that.
The Intruder.
Yeah, that was his.
The Intruder. I fucking love Dennis Quaid in The Intruder. I eat that shit up so much.
Good. Premiered on ABC and aired on Lifetime, AJ.
What's that?
That would be your movie you're referring to.
Oh, so it's a legit Lifetime movie.
Well, started on ABC, so I don't know.
Well, I assure you, it's a very good one. So.
Parsnip Burger also says that's because there are better actors, but argue that Melanie Griffith isn't good.
To me, she was only one of the bright points of it. Anyway.
So as
well, here's the okay. In the event that people seek this out, it feels like we've gone way off the topic, but the thing about Stalking Laura is when you watch it, it'll seem like, oh, this is so cliche, or oh, this is so far-fetched. Watch the movie, then read up on it, and realize how much of the movie actually fucking happened down to the detail. It's fucking crazy. It's like the movie, for being a Lifetime movie, is extremely accurate to what actually happened, and it's fucking nuts.
So with that, and the sheer possibility that Spencer Reed is currently watching Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back to determine what he's going to do to Parsnip Burger somewhere down the line. Needless to say, I think we're gonna have to take this home. We got a QA show tomorrow for that reason. So that's going to be starting 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Chat will be able to be up at 5 o'clock, so you can put in your questions and your comments. I believe we're doing the Oscar game. Is it 90s original song this week? I believe. Oh, nope. What'd you say, Ashley? Yep. You tell him, Orange. Let's go.
At least I know I've got to plug that in the front again next time. For fuck's sake. Yeah, I think it is 90s songs from what I remember.
Okay, cool. Parsnip Burger further elaborates. Stalking Laura is also about a guy who takes a gun into a business, so it's very current.
Hi, Barry.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Barry gets the guns out of the business.
All right. That being said, Ashley, final words on Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
I really enjoyed seeing it again. And, Strawberry Dick.
Nice. Exactly. I had some issues, like I usually do, since I don't believe in streaming. I don't have access to any platform, so I have to be given links to various things. I've had some issues, but it was nice to revisit it again. I always remembered how much I enjoyed this movie, and it was one of those ones I didn't want to put down, like a good book. That's for you, Josie. Needless to say, I will state once again that I've always enjoyed this film, and it was nice going back to it years later and seeing if I still thought the same as I did. And I did. Sam Rockwell's brilliant. The movie's fantastic. Seek it out if you haven't yet. And once again, as always, it's good that AJ brought it back to my attention. Carson Berger said, "Sorry I was late." You're fine. No worries. It's all right. Understand things happen. That's what archives are for. And we appreciate you returning to the chat. Brian says the playlist is still in the Discord. It'll be deleted before the podcast tomorrow. So, okay, we got that. AJ, final words on your pick of episode 32 of Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
I feel like I kind of started the final thoughts with the whole, yeah, it's nearly perfect thing.
That's fair.
So that's what it was. That was my final thoughts.
Speaking of that, that leads us to 2 weeks from Sunday, because we're back on a regular day and time. The only thing that ever coincides with that is All Elite Wrestling, because that's what nature intended. Ashley's pick is up next.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashley, what are we going to be watching in 2 weeks?
The Rise and Rise of Michael Rimmer. Let me just double check. There is a YouTube. If you search for it on YouTube and search for, a full-length thing rather than, the first 15 minutes and whatever, I think it's still there. Let me just check in case it's changed. Because given that it's a Warner Brothers film, technically, it could have... No, it appears like it's still up. Also, weirdly, there's the DVD commentary track as well for the thing. But yeah, it's available on YouTube.
So that is going to be coming your way on, I believe it's July 9th. Yep. Mm-hmm. July 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, 2 weeks later, July 23rd, the final pick of the three of us and the final pick of the four of us for the entire time frame is going to be my pick of Snake Eyes. So we're going to be talking some more Nick Cage soon. So, yeah. Good. Ashley can be found on Twitter at Ash's Take a Shot, at Ash is my name UK. And more snack stashes, more content from Ashley is forthcoming very soon. Actually, just as soon as this week. As a matter of fact, stay tuned. In the next few days, Ashley will be gracing you with more videos.
Thanks to the golden arches.
Heck yeah. Every Wednesday. You know it. 4 meals out of an entire meal. Gotta love it. AJ, of course, can be found on social media. Nope, that's not a truth at all, one bit, because he cannot be found on any form of social media, and also, just like Keith Richards, cannot be killed by conventional weapons. Needless to say, if you'd like to leave him a comment, you're more than welcome to on any video, which you do randomly, and we appreciate that. So I'll get that information back to him. And if you want to leave a comment in chat, feel free to do so. AJ's movie reviews will be returning with The Boogeyman coming up soon to continue our Stephen King series from way long ago and the way before time. And the aforementioned Asteroid City is coming, as well as other things in the near future from this year in film. So yeah, that'll be fun. So AJ content will be continuing. No specific day for it. It's when it comes, it comes. If you know, you know. I can be found on Twitter at Sir Owen Disney. Check out our Discord server, link in the description bar below. That's going to be your show for tonight. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Stream intellectual property, and hopefully the next time we do this little shindig in July, maybe, just maybe, you'll see my face. I guess you have to wait and see. That being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And until next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.